And as spring hesitates on the horizon, my fish stores run dangerously low. Last fall, my freezer was loaded. Trout, trout, more trout, and enough walleye to brag about. But it was a long winter. And apparently, I have the appetite of a bear. Now I'm down to one lonely trout, staring at it. You're next, buddy. Good news though, fishing season's almost here. So, it's time to get ready for the 2026 fishing season. And since I'm often asked about my setups, this is the perfect moment to show you what I use. Let's kick things off with my trout lures and the gear I rely on. I've been wearing the same fishing vest for nearly 30 years, and honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's full of memories and still fits like an old glove. In the upper left pocket is a small cylinder of trout attractant. In the middle left pocket is my hooks tray. In my middle right pocket is my swivels and snaps tray. In my bottom right pocket is my pliers. And finally, in the bottom left pocket are assorted soft baits I plan on using that day. Before diving into a closer look at these items, I want to make something clear. I'm not sponsored, paid, or affiliated with any of the companies behind them. I simply want to share what I personally use out on the water. These are tools that work for me, and that's all this is about. I use fish attractant not to lure fish, but to mask the scent of metal coming from the spoon. This stuff has a strong odor, so I'm careful not to let it leak onto my clothing, especially when I'm fishing in bear country. The standard hook size I use is a number 6, but if the trout are hitting hard, I'll move up to a number 4, and sometimes even a number 2. I rarely use a number 8, but it has happened on occasion. I only use stainless steel ball-bearing swivels and snaps. If there's one piece of gear you should never cheap out on, it's your hardware. Quality swivels and snaps keep your lures running true underwater and save you a lot of frustration. I love these pliers. I bought them about 3 years ago, and they've never let me down. When you're fishing from a kayak, everything needs to be tied down, so the lanyard is a must. I picked these up on Amazon, and I'll leave a link in the comments. To my right, inside my kayak saddlebag, 3 trays sit ready: spoons, soft lures, and the practical tools of a fishing kayaker, all within a quick hand's reach. In the larger tray, among the scattered lures, sits the real workhorse, a leader holder packed with 12 ready-made 6-pound test leaders, each armed with a number 6 hook, stretching anywhere from 16 to 24 inches. In the medium tray sits what I consider the most important piece of my kit, the spoons I trust on these northern waters. I'll take a moment later to explain why they matter so much. And in the smaller tray, I carry what often closes the deal, the soft baits that turn interest into a strike. I bring 3 knives with me, each with its own purpose, along with the sharpening tools to keep them ready. I'll explain their roles a bit later. So, let's talk spoons. Out here, there are endless options, walls of metal and color in every tackle shop. But on these northern waters, I trust only 4. My go-to is the Lake Clear spoon, the one that's earned its place through countless mornings on the lake. I carry 2 versions, the standard Lake Clear and the deep 3/5-ounce model, heavier and built for summer. When the water warms, the trout sink deeper, and every foot matters. Early in the season, before the sun has real strength, I turn to the Moose Look Wobbler. It has a softer, wandering action that trout can't resist when the water is still cold. And then there are the Lake Special spoons, sizes number 4 and number 5. More aggressive, more attitude. They have their moment, and when that moment comes, they shine. And of course, they come in a million colors, but that's a story for another time. There are a few lakes I fish that call for what I jokingly call my Frankenstein setup. For reasons only the fish seem to understand, soft bait just doesn't work on those waters. But swap the bait for these small spoons, and suddenly, everything comes alive. Some lakes have their own rules, and the trout make sure you follow them. I play around with all kinds of soft bait. Anything that even hints at an aquatic insect, I'll give it a try. I'll even throw on a soft bait minnow now and then, just to see if the trout are in the mood. I experiment with colors, shapes, whatever might spark a reaction. But when it really matters, I always come back to the same thing, the 2-inch pincher crawler. That little bait has earned my trust. It rarely lets me down. And as far as I'm concerned, gulp makes the best soft bait out there. When the fish are stubborn, that scent and texture can turn the whole day around. Why so many knives? Out here, each blade has its own story and its own purpose. My main knife is a buck jackknife I've carried for more than 40 years. It rides on my belt like an old companion, ready for whatever the day throws at me. Both of my fillet knives are Berkeley. The black one handles the rough work, cleaning fish, slicing veggies for the pan, doing the camp chores that leave a blade smelling like smoke and river water. The other, that one is for walleye. It stays honed to a whisper-thin edge, sharp enough to glide through a fillet without a sound. Even the best steel softens after a long day on the water. So I keep a small pen sharpener for quick touch-ups, and when I want that perfect polished edge, I bring out the stone. I carry 4 fishing reels, but the truth is, I only rely on 2 of them. And you'll notice something else. None of my gear is high-end or flashy. Experience has taught me that out there, anything can happen. Things break, things get lost, and the lake doesn't care how much you paid for your setup. Expensive gear doesn't catch more fish. Knowing your equipment, trusting it, and using it well, that's what makes the difference. This is my Okuma CW203DLX, my workhorse trolling reel. Built like a little tank, it delivers a smooth drag and a steady retrieve. There's a line counter that keeps me in the ballpark for how much line I'm running. Out on these northern lakes, that matters. The 203DLX keeps everything locked in and reliable, even when the wind shifts or the boat drifts just a little off course. The counter isn't perfect, never has been, but it's accurate enough to know where my lure is when a trout decides to strike. And when it does, this reel is already doing what it does best, staying smooth, staying steady, and getting the job done. I run 12-pound green trilene monofilament on this reel, and I've stuck with it for the last 2 years. It's simple, dependable, and it just works for the way I fish. This is my Shimano 500S, light and tougher than it looks. It's the reel I reach for when I'm working tight water or chasing trout in the shallows. The drag is smooth, the retrieve is crisp, and the whole thing feels precise in the hand, like it was built for cold northern lakes. It's not flashy, but it's reliable, and that's why it earns a spot in my kit. On this reel, I run 20-pound green spider wire stealth smooth casting braid. It's strong, casts clean, and gives me the sensitivity I need when a trout taps the line out in the quiet shallows. When I'm out on the water, I keep it simple, just 2 rods, no more. For trolling, I rely on my Okuma Solilo CES 562UL1, an ultralight built for quiet work. At 5.5 feet, it's sensitive enough to register the faintest tap from a trout in cold spring water. It's stout enough to absorb the sudden surge when a fish decides to run. The blank has that soft, forgiving action that makes lightline fishing feel almost surgical. And when I pair it with my Okuma CW203DLX, the two become a perfectly balanced team, tuned for the slow, steady rhythm of northern lakes. And for casting, it's the Shakespeare CMFT SP562L, the little rod that just gets it done. At 5'6", this light-action stick isn't fancy, and it doesn't pretend to be. But that's exactly why it earns a spot in the kayak. The blank has a straightforward, no-nonsense feel. Soft enough to flick drop shots with precision, yet sturdy enough to handle the sudden headshake of a feisty trout. And bass also. Pair it with a Shimano 500S, and you've got a combo you never have to baby. The kind you can toss into the kayak, scrape against a rock, or let roll around at your feet while you pedal toward the next quiet stretch of water. It's cheap, sure, but it's dependable. And sometimes, that's all you need when you're chasing fish on quiet, remote waters. These gizmos are great. Hookies is basically a small, clever tool that removes the frustration and danger from tying fishing knots, making it ideal for beginners, families, kayak anglers, and anyone who wants safer, cleaner rigging. You can tie knots in rough conditions without turning your fingers into pincushions. And in my case, well, the eyesight's fading, the fingers aren't as nimble as they used to be, and hookies keeps me from tying a granny knot on a size 6 hook. We all carry a net to bring fish into the boat, but on a kayak there are a few things you really need to pay attention to. First, make sure the net has a long handle. Remember, in a kayak you're locked into one position when landing a fish, so that extra reach matters. It also helps to have a net with a wide opening. When a fish makes that last-second surge beside the kayak, you want all the room you can get. And of course, everything on a kayak needs to be tied down, so a lanyard is non-negotiable. Right now, I'm upgrading the lanyard on my own net. Nothing fancy. I just tie-wrap a 3-foot bungee cord to it and add a clip carabiner. Simple, reliable, and it keeps the net exactly where I need it when the moment comes. I rely heavily on my fish finder. It shows me the depth of the lake, and when I'm trolling, I like to follow a steady depth line. It also gives me my speed, which I can fine-tune just by pedaling a little faster or slower. It reads the surface water temperature too, which tells me a lot about where the fish might be holding. And the best part is the waypoints. I can mark spots where I've seen fish activity and track my routes, so I can return to them with exact precision. That kind of accuracy makes all the difference. Even if I don't need all my fishing gear when I'm targeting trout, I still bring my planer tackle bag. I keep a few key accessories in there, and depending on the weather or the time of day, they always end up being useful. It's one of those things you don't think about until you need it. And on a kayak, being prepared makes the whole day run smoother. And notice those 2 small bungee cords. This bag is tied down to the kayak. Out on the water, anything that isn't secured has a way of disappearing over the side, so even an expensive tackle bag definitely gets anchored in place. My rain gear is vacuum sealed, so it takes up less space, and it stays dry no matter what. Even packed down tight, it's still easy to reach when the weather turns, which always happens faster than you think. I carry a few lights with me, but this little reading lamp is my favorite. It has a flat, stable base, and it folds down compact, so it slits easily into my tackle bag without taking up space. Simple, reliable, and always handy when the light starts to fade on the water. My fish finder obviously has a GPS, but it's battery-powered, and batteries don't last forever. That's why I always carry a compass. Getting fogged out on a lake with no way to navigate is not an experience you want to live, so a simple compass can quickly become the most important tools on board. In the next few weeks, when I pull my kayak out of storage and get it ready for the new fishing season, I'll be making a full video of the setup. I want to show how all this gear fits onto the kayak, how I organize my working space, and the little adjustments I make to keep everything efficient and within reach. It's a simple system, but it's taken years to refine, and I hope it might help some people get more out of their time on the water. Here is what's coming up in the near future on the Nordic Kayaker. In the coming weeks, I'll be reviewing a few items I picked up over the winter. New gear that'll make life easier both on the road and on the water. There's a new truck rack, a rugged phone and tablet holder for the cab, a rechargeable tire inflator, and a new cooler for the kayak. Each one has its purpose, and together they should help keep the whole setup efficient, reliable, and ready for the season ahead. During my first week of fishing, I'll be chasing rainbow trout on a local lake just a few minutes from home. The lake is stocked every year, and the trout are beautiful. Come early May, I'm hoping to carve out a day on Broadcorp Lake, heading into the Zec Bras Coupé for one fishing session before the lake shuts down for the season. I'm booked for a day in the Rouge Matawan Reserve in mid-May, gearing up to fish my usual lake and see what the season has in store. And before the end of June, I'm aiming to get up to La Vérendrye Park for a proper walleye run, one more northern trip to round out the early season.